Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome back to Pod Logic, presented by Straight Up Podcasts. I'm your host, Johnny Peterson, videoing this episode of Pod Logic this week. So if you're listening, know that you can watch my beautiful face on the YouTube. You can check out the channel in the description below. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 ways to actually help grow your audience. There's a lot of questions out there and not as many answers in terms of how do I actually grow my podcast audience? And I'm going to give you 3 practical ways that you can get started today to actually grow your audience for your podcast. So the first way to actually help grow your audience is cross-promotion. So meaning multiple shows can grow together if they work together. So they can do this by cross-promoting each other. In my own experience working on podcasts, the best way to reach out to the listeners that are most likely to try out a podcast that you're going to recommend is from your most avid listeners. Now, how do you determine your most avid listeners from just the standard listener who might just pop in every other episode or so? It's by saving those promotions for the post roll. So you're still giving your entire audience the entirety of your content, and you're not just bombarding them with an ask right off the bat like you would say, hey, by the way, subscribe. You would do that at the end of your episode. You can cross-promote other shows at the end of your episode with the knowledge that your most dedicated audience members are going to listen through the entirety of your podcast. So you can capitalize on this by partnering with other shows that you think fit well with your audience, not so well that you're cannibalizing your own audience where they say, all right, I'm going to ditch Johnny's show to go listen to somebody else's show that he promoted because it's too similar of content. But there's ways that you can navigate this. So you can plug another host show by partnering them, and then vice versa. They plug your show on their podcast. The second tip is guest touring. Now, this would take a little bit more work on your end, but you're a smart person. I'm sure you can figure it out. So another way to promote your show is by going on, like I said, a guest tour. You can set up guest appearances on a bunch of different podcasts through cold reach. That's probably the best way to do it. Like sales, just cold email, reaching out. Hey, I think I would be a great fit for your podcast. Again, having similar content to your own because you want to have some kind of value to provide to your audience, whether it's your personal story, that's something that's really interesting, or it's talking about the content that you talk about on your own podcast that aligns really well with the other show, and you think it would be a really valuable episode. Just remember to cast a really wide net while you're doing this, and don't get hurt when you don't hear back from a lot of hosts, because that's going to happen. People get cold reaches all the time, especially as the shows get larger in audience. They're going to have more and more people reaching out to try and be on as guests for their show. So keep pinging, keep plugging away at it until you get your side hustle as a great podcast guest up and running. Okay. Final tip is guest hosting. This is different from guest touring. So there's probably a pretty good chance that you have at least 1 or 2 friends out there that have podcasts themselves. You have a podcast. It's pretty likely that you know other folks who have podcasts as well. And maybe these friends are doing seasonal podcasts, or they are finding themselves in a pickle where they need to put down the mic for a few episodes, but they want to keep the show rolling. This is a great opportunity for you to step in as a guest host for a handful of episodes. Now, obviously, you would need to be familiar with their content and have the confidence to carry the load for them for a bit, but it puts you in front of a completely different audience who may want to add your show to their weekly listening. So those are 3 ways that you can help grow your audience, some practical ways, probably without having to spend any money doing it as well. So growing your audience is very important, something we all care about. Hopefully those are helpful for you. I really appreciate you for tuning in to this episode or this video. You can subscribe on the YouTube. You can check out the other content we're making for Straight Up Podcasts. And I will see you next time I make a video.